Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mountmellick Art Centre for the launch of Declan Furlong's The Exquisiteness of Ladders. Well, I'll treat you that handy day of the week. First of all, to kick off, we have Ger Phillips with some music. Ger Phillips.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to wish Declan the best with the book and thank him for inviting me to sing a song. I'm going to sing a song I've been singing for the last 23 years. And I hope I don't forget the words tonight because I've never sang to so many people. This old town is in my heart, it's in my very soul. And everywhere I travel, I seem to love it more. You can keep your California with sunshine all the time. Just give me your Mountmellick all the whole way down the line. Just to go down to the monument and read the names there in stone. And thank the Lord for brave young men who made this town our home. You can keep your San Francisco, we got a harbor and a bay. For a book of poetry we got no problems, cause it's Declan Furlong all the way. Oh, this old town is in my heart and it's in my very soul. And everywhere I travel, you see, I seem to love it more. You can keep your California with sunshine all the time. Yeah, just give me your Mountmellick all the whole way down the line. Just to walk around my Irish town, the oldest, bright and gay. Then go and buy yourself a book of poetry and read a poem every day. You can keep your William Wordsworth, Shakespeare and Robert Blake. Just give me Declan Furlong all the whole way down the line. Oh yeah, here we go. Oh, this old town is in my heart, it's in my very soul. Oh yeah. And everywhere I travel, well I see the love it more. You can keep your California with its sunshine all the time. Yeah, just give me your Mountmellick all the whole way down the line. Last time now, here we go. Oh, this old town is in my heart and it's in my very soul. And everywhere I travel, but I seem to love it more. Well, you can keep your California with its sunshine all the time. Yeah, just give me your Mountmellick all the whole way down the line. Yeah, just give me your Mountmellick all the whole way down the line.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce the managing editor of Revival Press, Mr. Dominic Taylor.
Agus tá fáil a roimh gach duine Welcome everybody. As Tom said, my name is Dominic Taylor and I'm Director of the Limerick Writers Centre and the Managing Editor of Revival Press, our poetry imprint. I'm delighted to welcome you all here tonight for the launch of The Exquisiteness of Ladders by poet Declan Furlong. And this book that we are publishing here tonight is the 142nd title that we have published since we began our community publishing project back in 2008. As a community press, our aim is to give writers and poets the opportunity to see their work in print, and we actively encourage writers, from the serious career-minded to people who write for pleasure, healing, personal growth, insight, or just to inform. And over the years, we have produced a broad range of writing, including poetry, memoir, history, and general prose. Declan is one of those poets who's shown a great persistence in the pursuit of his artistic practice, and I believe deserves to see the fruits of his labour as a poet manifest themselves in the form of a published book. Pablo Neruda, the Nobel Prize-winning poet, said a number of years ago that poetry is like bread. It should be shared by all, by the vast, incredible, extraordinary family of humanity. That quotation from Neruda we have taken very much to heart at the Limerick Writers Centre and firmly believe that poetry, like all genuine cultural activity, must come from and reflect the clay and soil of our communities. And that is something that the Limerick Writers Centre firmly believes in. Neruda grabbed poetry from the shelves of the rich and gave it back like bread to the people, and that is what we are doing here tonight, sharing with family and friends the poetry of Declan Furlong. That's why we bring together groups of people who value literature, not just for its literary value, but who see its transformative power, both for the individual and society. And we believe that stories, poems, diaries, memoirs do, as Seamus Heaney suggests, function as bearers of value. On two counts, I'm delighted to see so many of you here tonight, this evening, to support Declan's book launch. Firstly, it is great that Declan's work is now available, and he will have the opportunity to bring a positive awareness of his work to a wide audience. Declan's work is a relation of thoughts, feelings, and sensibility. He maybe doesn't always write about himself, but he definitely writes as himself, infusing into his poems real feelings. Secondly, it is through the sale of books like Declan's that we can continue to reinvest and publish new writers. So when you buy Declan's book, you're not just supporting him, but other local writers also. To conclude, I'd like to thank a number of people who helped make this occasion a success. Firstly, to Declan himself for allowing us to publish his work. I believe that this is poetry which is alive and its language, in its language and music, and it can be felt on every page. Thanks also to Anne Egan, who will shortly officially launch the book, and to my own colleagues, some of them who are here tonight from the Limerick Writers Centre. Thank you very much.
Anne Egan, poet and editor, will officially launch Declan's book. Anne Egan.
Is Mary a Gwina Ushle, Tá mé anbrodúil bheitheh vor másc an ihe seo chun an leabhar álín filiachta de Declan Furlong a chur I vor másc. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to be here in Mountmellick, our own lovely Mountmellick, to launch this beautiful book, which is a product of Revival Press, which Dominic has just told us about, and the book itself is so well produced. It is lovely quality. The cover, done by Nina Horn, inspires us and brings us into the heart of Mountmellick. It brings us into the themes in the book, the characters in the poems, the loss, the beauty, and the love that is contained within. The book also has 5 illustrations by the artist Genevieve Murphy, and in those illustrations, as in Nina Horn's cover, there's images of Laois, of Mountmellick, of the onus of the natural world that we are so proud of and that we strive so hard to preserve, the lovely world of Mountmellick and of the Midlands and of the incredible natural beauty that surrounds us all and that we see every day. So that's the lovely book, The Exquisiteness of Ladders, by Declan Furlong, published by Revival Press. Its managing editor, Dominic Taylor. I welcome Dominic here to Mountmellick tonight and other people from the press, and I welcome you all. And I'd like to tell you a little bit now, just a little bit about the making of this beautiful book. And when we are thinking of this book of poetry, we are thinking also of the introduction that Jar Phillips gave to us in his wonderful song about Mountmellick, that tells us how special a town and how special a place that we live in. And if we go to the poet of the book, then Declan, just a little bit from his background, Declan got his great love of verse through song, and when you read the poems, you'll be able to get the beat and the rhythm of the songs. When he was young, his house was full of music. His brothers loved folk music and trad music, and Declan's sister loved rock and roll. And Declan, the youngest in the family, would sneak into her bedroom to secretly play the music of Elvis on a very carefully guarded record player. Declan's own father loved country music and West country and western music, and from that closely knit family unit in Mountmellick, presided over one time by Declan's lovely mother, the child's love of words and music and vice rhythms grew. And other poems then, as time went on, other voice rhythms came to Declan, and he pinpoints the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock as one of the earliest influences on him in his speaking voice as a poet. And so, from these many influences that grew down through the years, the inspiration came to Declan that lies behind this wonderful collection of poems before us tonight, with its extraordinary title, The Exquisiteness of Ladders. And when you look at the collection, you will notice that it falls into 5 natural sections, and it's quite unique in that these sections, they cover the entire life, and Declan doesn't mind if I talk about years or age, because age is to be revered always. Each section covers a span of about 10 to 20 years. The first section covers perhaps 20 years, and after that it falls into 10 years up to the present day. The first collection covers childhood and teens, and it opens with a wonderful poem that celebrates Mountmellick, our lovely, lovely town of Mountmellick, through which the silver onus flows. And a little quotation from it: dippers cross from bank to bank. And then the music of the words, Derricloney, the onus hall, and all the memories that that brings to each one of us as we are here tonight. The poems celebrate the magic and mystery that is our town of Mountmellick in all its midland beauty. This beauty and sorrow and eternal heartbreak too are in some of Declan's poems, particularly in the last 2 in this section. In the poem Funeral Procession in memory of my mother Betty Furlong is absolutely heartbreaking and will live in our memory and celebrate a beloved mother forever and ever. And it concludes with 2 powerful words, just simply, your love. So that's the strength that lies in section 1. And then we move on seamlessly to section 2, that is Declan's 20s. 3 brings us to his 30s, 4 to the 40s, and 5 to the 50s. And throughout all the collection, Declan's voice rings strong and true. And in the poems, trust and self-belief are integral to the power and authenticity of every poem. And anyone that knows Mountmellick knows that it's a very, very authentic place. And those who have grown up here and who live here just know the value and the magic of the honesty and the power and the expression that is in our lovely town of Mountmellick. And that old Mountmellick voice, which Declan has, and which I'm blessed enough to know so well because of my own mother, it's a powerful element throughout all the poems. The construction of the poems, and just talk a little bit about that, is guided by an energetic, charismatic speaking voice that is embedded in Mountmellick culture. The themes of the poems are strong, individual, but they have a universal flavour. The poems show a huge depth of feeling. They can easily make you cry. They can fill your heart with sadness, but then they can flip around and tears can roll down your face with laughter. The book's title, The Exquisiteness of Ladders, is the perfect one because it links poems that span over 40 years of living and throws light on all the word treasures that are contained within this collection. I congratulate you, Declan, on your years of inspiration and of turning this inspiration into very powerful, unforgettable poems. And now is your time to have great confidence and belief in your voice, which is unique and always and evermore, we have to say again, a true, authentic Mountmellick voice. And I thought then I'd just move to a few lines from some of the poems. Declan will do the reading, but just some lines to give us a little flavour of the delights that are ahead of us when we read the collection. For example, a sunny April Saturday in lockdown. Wetlands, a badlands grass arena, where rushy islands sit in pools on marshy sile. Reliving youth, I hop from clump to clump to see how far I'll get, not slip and keep my boots from getting wet. Declan captures in that poem so much of what we know and feel and perhaps would love to say of Mountmellick, but it's in our hearts if we don't say it. And then another few lines from the reality of 2021, and just take a few lines from this one, and it's a reference to The Hare's Rest. Once I knew her beat by heart, my crew knew every customer within. Rock-hardy builders murdered killer fries, while pancake-pestered parents spun out lies. Our kitchen porter queen sang crooked rhymes, and old men dined on dreams of better times. So it's a powerful lament for the pandemic, a stripping back of dreams, and a world that has fled from us. Hopefully it'll come back again, but in many ways it's almost like a dream world to us now, but captured so powerfully in the poem. And then if I move on to the title poem, The Exquisiteness of Ladders, and I'll just do the second half of it, and it goes like this. Above that rapt attention, in concert, I bear witness to the forest breed. Above me, a collection of birdsong. Above that, a blessed canopy of beach. Above that, the challenge of a black steel sky. of that, consequences. This poem for me echoes the one that we all learned so many years ago at school, the one of W.B. Yeats, where he says, "Come away, O human child, to the waters and the wild, from a world more full of weeping than you can understand." And then these two lines just jumped at me when I read them some time ago. I have to say, Declan, I know Declan personally for many years and delighted, and I also know him professionally because when I was Laois Writer in residence, Declan was at the workshop for the 2 years, and all the people used to wait with bated breath for his poem because they knew it was going to be different, it was going to be strong, and in some way it was going to change the atmosphere in the room. And these two lines are just an example of the power of Declan's writing. And before I read them, Muireann Connell, the Laois Arts officer, sends her best wishes to Declan tonight. She's in Berlin, so she can't be here. The lines go like this: "I'll strive to mull through layers for truth as known to me." It's lovely. "I'll strive to mull through layers for truth as known to me." And this is a map, a guide for all the poems in the collection. And then I'll finish with this poem, or just a few lines from it. As you know, Mountmellick is transformed once a year with magical colours, beautiful colours. We wake up one day and there's beautiful artwork all over the town. The yarn bombers have arrived. So it's that poem, and it's in praise of yarn bombing Mountmellick. There's a little bit from it. "They ply the seasons with their crafty ways. Strange forms might fruit at any time. Useless to think you'll catch them in the act. Pick a week, a month, chances are you're wrong. They'll have slip-stitched in the early dawn, and then, just like that, be gone." The magical world that the Mountmellick yarn bombers unfold for us when this lovely Midland town, that is also famous for its exquisite white-threaded lace, Mountmellick lace, that captures the essence of our Midlands natural world, well, of a morning when a mass of colours, beautiful in their various designs, create a dream universe for us all that tells us the yarn bombers have been. And I think it's fair to congratulate everybody, including Nina, for that magnificent work. So, ladies... And so, ladies and gentlemen, I come to the end of my launch, and this beautiful poetry collection, The Exquisiteness of Ladders, published by Revival Press from the Limerick Writers Centre, by the poet, the Mountmellick poet, Declan Furlong, I declare it launched.
How are you doing, everybody? First, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming here tonight. Christ, I can't believe the turnout, and it's really, it's heartwarming and a little bit humbling. So thank you, everybody. I'd like to thank Anne for her wonderful kind words. Anne has been a quiet mentor over the years. She has helped me with her light editing touch. Everything that she's ever told me or any direction she's ever showed me was always done most delicately, very carefully, as she said herself, not to ruin the loud voice that I have. And I'm really, really grateful. And to Dominic next from Revival Press, you know, it's just, you don't know what it means to publish me. I'm so grateful. And, you know, we're all full of doubt, anybody who writes. And to be published by such a reputable press as yourself is something that means the world. And thank you very much for that. To Ger Phillips, wherever he's hiding down there, thanks a million, Ger, for name checking me about 14 times in your Twitter. Just in case anybody didn't know. That's wonderful. And to Genevieve Murphy, I absolutely am so grateful for the wonderful illustrations. They do punctuate each part, and they do show off. I like to think that's, you know, the wonder and the magic that's in our surrounding area. I also then I'd also just finally to thank Dominic for his patience. Every time I told him to go, and then I said, whoa, just one more edit. I think I got it down to 1 comma. That, other than that, you know, everything was pretty perfect. And that leads me to my dear wife Nina, whose technical prowess is absolutely boundless, but not quite so her patience. But I have to say, in this regard, she, you know, she did a million. I love you. Thank you. I'm going to read 8 poems, just going through the sections, and I'm not going to really stop at a little bit of a kind of a preamble that leads to most of them. So literally, I'm going to start now, as the fella says. Excuse me. Like Anne said, I was the youngest by a few years, and so my brothers didn't really, you know, want to hang around with me too much, and I can appreciate that. So I spent a hell of a lot of time with my pets and with my imagination, until I was kind of old enough to hit town and a few pals that were further down the road. But I had one friend, Henry Burns was his name, and he was a local farmer's son and a cousin of mine. And for about 2 or 3 summers we converted an ivy cap into a tree house, and we had like lots of adventures that never really came to anything. And you know, so we must have been bored silly until one day Henry's daddy came and said, "Hey son, would you like to come with me and learn how to drive a tractor?" And I'd say Henry took a look at me and a look at the treehouse and a look at the Zetter crystal, and I was back along the river with me dogs. But the river itself, it holds a huge place in my heart. Even when it visited what was my restaurant in 2017, I couldn't fully hate it. It was a kingdom where I reigned, and I reigned in my stretch of onus. 2 kingfishers blew bullet by, a flash beneath my bridge of sighs. I head upstream, in this Amazon where otters jest, giant boulders rest, black, slippy, dressed with skirts of moss. Yellow hammers dart past wagtails, dippers cross from bank to bank. Lank grasses shield sandpipers' nests, great gutsy wrens scour plants for pests. Around the bend a heron waits, his stock still, solitary state, bamboozled by my skimming stones, thrown just as much to hear him squawk as save the brown trout. I wade beneath 3 low-bowed broadleaf trees, slow water gently slapping at my knees. All about me, plucky swallows cut the air, pick mayfly off with carefree skill, and for a moment I stand still, just long enough to hear among my throng sweet cries, Anansi, Tarzan, you belong. The next poem I want to read is, it's a celebration poem for my mother, and it's dedicated to all my family who are here tonight. It's wonderful to have a reunion that isn't at a funeral, so it really, really is. You know the way it goes, everybody's the same, isn't it true? When you're young anyway, particularly a boy, you know, your dad is your hero. You want to impress him, you want to play with him, own his time, and your mammy just is. You know, you scratch your knee, you run to mammy, she fixes it up, kisses you, and you're gone. You probably don't even say thanks. So I was too young when Mam died. I was 19 to have been old enough to create the distance where I could love her for the woman she was. And I'm mindful of the line from Michael Hartnett, a Limerick poet, who said, I loved my mother from the moment she died. And you know, so I couldn't write this poem of celebration until afterwards, looking back. And it's called Funeral Procession. We walk behind you with your guard of honour, with guards long dropped, my sister's trembling lips dripped sorrow. My father's carriage had its burning pride, and gloss it had to hide until it had its private moments to subside through lava tears that bubbled up inside. How you loved us, mother, your eldest son, your second son, the protégé, your daughter, your proud, strong, loyal husband, our fairy tale type father. Yes, you loved us all and often went through pain alone with courage to protect your young. And I was young, too young to understand such courage keeping up your chin if not your heart, too young to realise such pain releasing from your eyes sometimes, harsh knowledge of your going away. I know there were times when I was laying to your needs, my greedy teenage brain sowing trivial seeds, but you do not need to know my sorrow. You are a mother. You can see such things and follow. Now, as I write this, bleary-eyed, tormented, I realise I'll miss you in your turn of phrase, the days you cried, your praise at our achievements, exaggerated scorn with each deception, your love. Moving on to section 2, where I'm starting to come of age, and back in the mid-80s, you know, us young men didn't have a Joe Rogan or a Jordan Peterson to tell us how to go forth in wisdom. There were 2 golden rules, I think, that my daddy and I think everybody else's daddy told us. One was respect women, and the second had something to do with what you don't do on your own doorstep. And, so armed with these 2 truths, myself and young Nolan over there, we hit the boat to England. And while we had many adventures that will never make their ways into print, they might come out of my mouth in a nursing home when I'm old. But we had many hot nights in the Mean Fiddler. Strutting down North Harlesden Street, 3 thirsty boys could feel the beat. Unfurrowed brows, 9 rounds to down, and Mary Coughlin in a Goona gown. She can hold a note all right, Jay thought. For 13 hard-earned notes, she ought to sing like she was Janisine and fuck the pains of 17. I'm 21, half sober, in this teeming house of horny dreams, where beer is swilled till sense is killed enough to talk some drunken shite and land a woman for the night. Half hours left for me to see if any colleen here is free to contemplate hard poetry. Keeping with the Mountmellick teams, there was a great balladeer from town, Mickey Lawler, rest in peace. Mickey Lawler went under the moniker Mickey Fury, and I think his sisters Trish and Doris are here tonight. But he was terrific, and he played the London circuit an awful lot. And I think it was a great place for lots of people who had left town at the time to kind of meet up. And I remember going to see him one Sunday in the Archway Tavern, and I couldn't believe I knew 32 people from Mountmellick, Rosenallis, Clonasleen, the surrounding areas. And it's only 1987 or 88. But I wrote this poem because the time comes, I think, in the emigrants' experience when you know it's the time to come home. It may have been a great Christmas, like many of us would have had in the Mountmellick Inn, literally, where we'd have spent a fortnight, answering when are you going back questions. Or it might have been a funeral that we maybe missed, or you might just be lonely, or maybe, in my case, probably just hadn't an arse in my trousers and it was time to come home. But that moment comes and we all realise it. For me, I think my brother-in-law Willie was driving me back to the train station, and I chanced to look back at my father, and he was crossing the gable end of the house. He used to be very emotional when we'd say goodbye, and I wouldn't make eye contact. And I just saw him shaking his head as he was walking in, and I just thought, poor daddy, he's so lonely, I have to come home. And my sister told me a couple of years later that he was shaking his head because he was wondering what was going to become of me. But anyhow, there's nothing like a big sister to keep in your place, But anyhow, I knew going back that time, and this is for every immigrant who is away and wondering, or who has come home, that this time it's different. I hit London on January 1st with a double thud at Heathrow Airport, safely through customs with 2 rich fruitcakes, comforts for a friend not back this Christmas, a taste from home, his mother said, his favourite, class munchies for a day or two, no doubt. On the tube now, feet both sides of an upturned pail of fire sand stinking of stale vomit, the only spot to offer up a seat. Through Tannoy talk, the call comes to change at Green Park. I march what always feels the longest tunnel on the grid. It shape-shifts through the city like a time zone. Next, the Victoria line, where the air is hot, sticky and stale. 4 more stops. Head down, for that's become my form. I muscle my way into nighttime Brixton's sprawl. 10 careful minutes later, tired of the shoulder bag packed and slapping awkward on my back, I reach safe ground. A swiveled hip helps close the outside door. Then a dawning, a sweet kick in the balls, if there can be such a thing. I'm not feeling spat out of my country's mouth, but this time, tramping to my stone-cold shadow haunt by moron's choice. 6 more months to get a few bob together. Ireland, I'm coming home. When I got home, I masqueraded as a publican for a few years. And I was a good customer, but I wasn't my best customer, thank God. There was one man who used to frequent the bar. The first time I ever saw this man, I was a child, and he was blind drunk, walking between Watchhorns and Kavanagh's bar. And the eyes were blazing in his head, and he looked like he could kill you stone dead and burst out crying while he was doing it. He was absolutely the most fantastic. It's like a creature that you thought was extinct or something. I hid, kind of half hid in Kavanagh's and looked at him. I never knew what happened to him, and I never saw him again until he walked through the door into the bar in the Druid, about a decade later. He was about 5'8" and about 4'2" wide. He was a friend of my dad's in the way that 2 men who took lumps out of one another 30 or 40 years ago become friends. I never saw them together, but I know that they had massive respect for each other. He wasn't a great man for sentences. He wasn't even a great man for phrases. He'd give you one word and lots of time to kind of fill in the gaps. He had a wonderful final few years here in the hospital, looked after by the wonderful staff. But I didn't know it was always going to be that way. He was incredibly kind, and I loved him dearly. And while he didn't live rough, he certainly lived tough. This poem is called Andy Murphy's Sonnet. King of the road by noon, he cuts a swathe through town, due pension gathered for the week. His top-shelf tongue relays in dizzy speech that all and any money owed's now paid. A means to riddle folk is what he's found, the elbow grab, bound to reveal a prayer. And a pause then with so intimate a stare would leave one rooted, mindful of his ground. No pity's tale, a straight-backed rural pride, his dozen ducks, the out-thought fox's fate, while tales of hurling cameras out the gate swell jaundiced eyes, large powers to toast aside. This bachelor's fate, what lessons can recall a better choice, or any choice at all? And dear Andy, but he was a great man. Now, I'm after getting a massive shock with some of the people who've turned up here tonight. Most of my working career was spent in Barrettstown, the camp formed by Paul Newman in the mid-90s. The summer camps are for children with serious illnesses who come from all over Europe, and then there are spring and autumn camps, mainly weekend camps that look after both bereavement camps and family camps that have the parents and its brothers and sisters and children. And it's a place that's full of joy. In 15 years I never once felt like I did one day's work. You can imagine now a young child who's maybe got a prosthetic leg, who's been eating hospital food for God knows how long, and you cook and hand him a decent nugget and he looks at you like you're Gordon Ramsay. You know? It's just was the most remarkable spot. And I'm honoured to have some old school friends from my time there here with me. And this poem is dedicated to all of you. Each year when camp ends, it's always bittersweet. You want to hang around and help about the place, but you know, it's time to go because it's not about you. And while I understand that, at the same time, you know, there was no doubt about it, but every season at season's end, we suffered post-Barrettstown blues. Each spring we adopt the code, disjoin, then reconnect, that those hollowed out through fears might thieve comforts, retrace scars scarcely recognised, clear hurdles placed at subtle heights to scuffle pitted pain, then stumble on towards a brighter light. Summer's a vibrant blur, a half-snatched dream, a myriad of cultures mesh through themes and tests and trials, moulded by a flexile structure glued in form and function, completing and redeeming ebb and flow, yin and yang. Then bang, at season's end the cord is cut. These months of shared example find all of us not thinking, blinking out into the headlights of the world again, to pause, take stock, rearrange emotions, become closed and stiff and strange. Two poems to go. One I want to finish again because I have something that I'm waiting. Anne mentioned the yarn bombers. They are our most subversive crafters. I keep dreaming I'm going to wake up someday and find a set of handcuffs in rainbow colours. It hasn't happened yet, so I can only live in hope. And, they truly are a herd of a different colour. Like eager teens off spinning dreams, they've granny striped their ways into our hearts. This sacred coven weaves mandala magic, pearls sleek manoeuvres, plans operations far from prying eyes. Busy, busy, busy bees, glint-eyed, antsy pants, ripple puff queens of the dark arts. Cometh the hour, Mercury rising, these crochet hookers hit the early morning streets. Mistresses of the cable tie, no lamppost is off limits, no railing deemed unfit for bunting strips. They save sad corners for their most complex installations, for bleak is in the eye of the beholder. With pom-poms ripe to hang, staples at the ready, there's nowhere safe for grey or brown to hide. When this army screams go, don't dare stand in their way. They might just pull a glue gun and stick you to a ladder for They gift us colour, expecting nothing in return, nothing that is but the knowledge that As daylight reveals their art and word quickly spreads, we, the tribe, like children who awaken to snowfall in the morning, will attack the day in awe, fully certain to be ambushed by creations even wilder round each bend. Feast for the eyes, the valley smiles, while restless little feet stamp, explore, explore. An honour to know these angels soldier for our souls, deem us worthy of their concentrated skill, dare to make our town unique, to even make it cool. Yarn bombers mean business. They'll blow a hole right through your sensibilities. Don't let their whimsy fool you. Their love of yarn comes from the gut. They ply the seasons with their crafty ways. Strange forms might fruit at any time. Useless to think you'll catch them in the act. Pick a week, a month. Chances are you're wrong. They'll have slip-stitched in the early dawn. Then, just like that, be gone. Before I read my last poem, I just want to let you all know, don't be in a hurry to run out the door. The Hare's Corner are after providing us with some fantastic canopies, some wines, prosecco, tea, coffee, and they're ready to go. So you'll be able to, stick around here, have some food outside, have some food downstairs. Dominic will be selling some books. He has a card machine and cash, and I think one of my nieces is going to be doing likewise somewhere. If anybody wants to horse straight across to the Druid, Jerry is going to be selling books over there. And there's even posters. Nina Horn, my God, it's a good job I don't mess around with my phones. Thank God I'm an old man now, because she has posters on the wall that you can scan a QR code or something and it brings you straight to the Revival Press website. So, but anyhow, and in relation to the Druid, there's a fantastic session about to kick off over there. There's about, I think we have 2 flute players, a beatbox, an uilleann piper, 2 banjos, 2 guitars, an accordion, and a load of lads that I know are going to get locked as soon as we So, it should be thoroughly enjoyable. Anyway, my last poem that I want to read is, I find as I get older, my accent is kind of, I'm a bogman and I've got a bogman's accent, but as I get older it kind of seems to be either progressing or regressing even more, I'm not quite sure what way to put it. Like I find myself saying things like Sherlev so. What about it? And I kind of like it, And you also move a little bit slower, and I don't necessarily think it's because you can't move fast. I just think, shit, I've been moving fast all my life. Just take a look around, and you get a keen eye. You start to kind of really hear birdsong and know what the various leaves are on the trees, and you spot certain little idiosyncrasies that go along. If you pay close enough attention, you might even learn about the secret life of car parks. And this is in the, what would the youngsters call it, bogman style. There's the troubled craftsman who peels off after work to sit in silence for an hour at least to keep from going home. The scrawny ones hanging, tend to a giant by a battered up starlet. The creep with the sideways eye, he'll cruise 3 times a day at least. Hatchbacks parked like 69s is a dead giveaway. Especially at twilight. Especially girls. Forbidden love. Forecourt snobs don't gather here, but that doesn't stop the spit and polish talk of rims. You see, this is a seedier type of car park. More bun-dorden than emo court. The kind of car park where a fella could get his nose broken if he wasn't careful. Might come in a Fox or a Pine Martin if he was. A place where you could turn a corner to find a condensation dripping Corsa losing its virginity. Us dog walkers know our time slots even if the can supping brigade don't. It's some pain in the hole fetching an eager pup from a gang of tweenies by the river, acting hard, but you do it. Prison courtyard shit. For 30-second tear-ups, the ripped up tarmac is donut fodder for the dropped shot big cock exhaust types. Down at the back near the weir, grand happy chaps pull wheelies on a well-packed gravel pile, Red Bullock style. And then there's the car park commando himself, Strong John, a good man, would spot a midget in the swallow's mouth from 100 yards. Loves the weather, wheelbarrows, yard brushes and talking. Any pheasants? No, John, no pheasants. The big rigs had taken to overnights until they didn't. Half-flattened walls from shite reversing put an end to them. This is my hood for nearly 30 years now. Jess has pissed the drop, and no behind the factory puff talkers better try to stop him. Nobody fucks with our evening stroll. Got a metal bar hidden by the pallet store should it ever be required. Well, I'm not as young as I was. The Marquis himself would understand that, I'm sure. Thank you. Chairman, would you play us out with one more darling tune?
Lovely.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
This is a true story that happened to me one Sunday morning in Mountmellick. I got up it was about 8:30 in the morning, and it was a beautiful morning. I went over to the MDA to get the breakfast, and it was about 9 o'clock when I got the breakfast, and I was sitting there outside on the veranda, they call it, outside the door. I was sitting there, and next minute I could see all these ladies arriving coming up the street. Who was it on the yarn bombers coming back after setting up their yarn bomber? And they came and they joined me on the veranda. There was about 20 of us there. And what did they do next? And they started to tell ghost stories. At 9:30 on a summer's morning, they were telling ghost stories. But anyway, before they left, Cathy Bishop said to me, "Ger, why don't you try and write a song about the yarn bombers?" And so that's what I did. So this is it.
Let's go yarn bombing. Let's go yarn bombing. Let's go yarn bombing. Yarn bombing in the sun. Yarn bombing in the sun. Yarn bombing in the sun. Well, it's Mountmellick summertime and I'm soaking up the sun. It's breakfast on the veranda, here's corner kind of one. I'm sitting with the ladies and I'm having lots of fun. But when they start to tell ghost stories, it's time for me to run. It's time for me to run. Let's go yarn bombing. Let's go yarn bombing, she said to me. Let's go yarn bombing. Ooh. Yarn bombing in the sun. Yarn bombing in the sun. Yarn bombing in the sun. Well, Martina's talking banshee and Patricia's wearing boots. I know nothing about yarn bombing, I don't even know its roots. But God bless those sweet yarn bombers who colour up our town with their beautiful creations. When summer comes around, when summer comes around, when summer comes around. Let's go yarn bombing, yeah. Let's go yarn bombing, ooh. Let's go yarn bombing, ooh. Yarn bombing in the sun, yarn bombing in the sun. Let's go yarn bombing. Let's go yarn bombing. They say to each other, oh, let's go yarn bombing. That's what they do. They're bombing in the sun, yarn bombing in the sun, yarn bombing in the sun. That's just moment. Well, it's Mountmellick summertime and I'm soaking up the sun. It's breakfast on the veranda, here's corner kind of one. And I'm sitting with the ladies and I'm having lots of fun. When they start to tell those stories, it's time for me to run.